3 people are dead, passengers are being evacuated to quarantine facilities on multiple continents, and the disease responsible has been known to scientists for 30 years. Yet there is still no vaccine and no approved treatment. The MV Hantavirus outbreak has exposed something far more serious than a single public health incident. It has exposed a gaping hole in the global health preparedness architecture that billions of dollars and decades of institutional authority were supposed to have filled. Joining me now are Elena Vasquez, our Europe and EU analyst, and Sophia Reeves, our economics and markets editor. Elena, let me start with you. Is this a competence failure, a funding failure, or a systemic institutional failure?
Thanks, Emma. It's all three, and frankly, that's what makes it so damning. What we're watching unfold across Tenerife, Paris, London, and Nebraska is not just a public health emergency. It's a referendum on whether Western institutions are still capable of basic protective functions. 3 people are dead from a pathogen that the CDC has had on its radar since 1993. 3 decades. And we have nothing. No vaccine, no treatment. Nothing. Douglas Murray has written about this pattern extensively. Western institutions have become extraordinarily good at producing frameworks, committees, and communiques, and extraordinarily poor at actually solving the problems those committees were created to address. The WHO has had the mandate, the money, and the authority. The result is passengers in hazmat gear being bussed off a cruise ship in the Canary Islands with 0 treatment options available to the sick. And the truly alarming part, Spain confirmed a new high-risk case during the evacuation itself. This isn't contained. The trajectory suggests we are in the early stages of a multi-country containment test, not the final stages.
But Elena, isn't that a slightly unfair framing? Hantavirus doesn't typically transmit human to human. The epidemiological profile is very different from something like COVID. Are you overstating the institutional failure here? Or is this actually the crisis-level moment you're describing? And Sophia, what's your take on this?
Well, look, Elena's right that the institutional failure is real, but I think she's conflating 2 separate problems, and that actually matters for the solution. The WHO's structural dysfunction is one issue. The absence of hantavirus treatments is a different issue, and that one has a very specific economic explanation. Here's the data that nobody wants to say out loud. A 2021 virological review found fewer than a dozen serious vaccine candidates had ever reached clinical evaluation for hantavirus. Why? Because the commercial market is too small. The disease is geographically dispersed. It affects populations that don't generate mass pharmaceutical revenues, and advanced market commitments, the mechanism that actually worked for COVID vaccines, have never been applied to neglected pathogens at any serious scale. The CDC itself estimates roughly 850 cases of hantavirus pulmonary syndrome in the U.S. since 1993. Pharma companies are profit-driven. That number doesn't move boardrooms. So if we want to fix this, the answer isn't more WHO bureaucracy. It's restructuring the incentives so that private capital actually flows toward neglected pathogen research. I hear what Sophia is saying, but with respect, that misses the point entirely. Yes, market incentives matter. I'm not disputing that. But we're not talking about a commercial failure in isolation. We are talking about governments that have poured billions into the WHO, into national health agencies, into pandemic preparedness frameworks, and none of that money produced a treatment for a known, documented, lethal virus. This is government overreach and government underperformance happening simultaneously. They took the authority, they took the funding, and they delivered nothing. Passengers are in intensive care in Johannesburg. An expedition guide is receiving treatment in the Netherlands. A 69-year-old man is fighting for his life, and the best the French Prime Minister can offer is quarantined until further notice. That's it. That's the entirety of the institutional response. Containment and hope.
Here's what I want to know, and this is the forward-looking question that I think really matters. The Americans are heading to the Nebraska Medical Center's National Quarantine Unit, which is described as state-of-the-art. The British are in hospital monitoring. The French are quarantined in Paris. Every country is doing its own thing. Is the fragmented national response the right approach here, or is that fragmentation itself the risk? Sophia, where do you see this going?
The way I see this playing out, the national fragmentation is actually a feature rather than a bug in the short term, and the Nebraska facility is the proof of concept. The Americans built a dedicated national quarantine unit precisely because sovereign investment in national health infrastructure delivers results that multilateral waiting games don't. If current trends continue and the quarantine protocols hold across the UK, France, the US, and the Netherlands, we'll likely see this contained within the coming weeks. But, and this is the critical point, the moment this fades from the headlines, the political will to fund neglected pathogen research evaporates entirely. The real risk isn't what happens in the next 30 days. It's what doesn't happen in the next 30 years. Here's what concerns me most: the emergence of a new high-risk case during the Tenerife evacuation. That's not a sign of a situation being managed. That's a situation developing faster than the management can track it. Hantavirus is not typically human-to-human transmissible. That's true, and it's important. But we need to watch any indication of strain variation extremely carefully. The trajectory suggests that if even one asymptomatic passenger clears their monitoring window and then develops symptoms in the community, we are in a completely different conversation. Sovereign nations, Britain, France, the United States, need to make fast, unilateral decisions without waiting for WHO consensus. The post-Brexit vaccine rollout showed what Britain can do when it acts decisively. That model needs to be the template here, not the multilateral talking shop.
Powerful analysis from both of you. Elena Vasquez, Sophia Reeves, thank you. 3 dead, no treatment, and the whole world improvising. The uncomfortable reality is that hantavirus didn't catch science off guard. It caught the bureaucracy that was supposed to be paying attention.